today. This is 10 Minutes of Tennis with world-renowned tennis coach, Australian in Puerto Rico, Justin Yeo, and we are going to talk about what everybody is talking about, which is the retirement of Rafael Nadal. So before I start reading off headlines and what the questions are and what everybody else thinks we should talk about, Justin, what's your first response to Rafa calling it quits?
It's about time.
Give it up, buddy.
I just wish him all the best for his future. I mean, the guy was a battle horse. I mean, he just went through everything. I remember 2010 meeting with Uncle Tony and talking about his 2009 Australian Open title. We had a great discussion because Tony was explaining that he came off the semi-final against Verdasco all night. There was a rain delay during the tournament, so he had to play Saturday in the semi-final against Verdasco and went 5 sets. Got up the next morning and had to play Federer in the final. And Tony talks about it that, you know, in about 5 to 10 minutes, Rafael was like, can't do this. His toes were bleeding, his fingers were hurting, body was sore. It's like, I can't do this. Tony just turned to him and said, well, they said you wouldn't be able to beat Federer on the hard courts in the Australian Open. So, you know, so be it. So he trained on for another 45 minutes and then beat Federer in 5. So that was 2009. So we're now 2024 and multiple performance and physical therapist guys all said that he'd be lucky to make 2012 with the injuries he had. So it's just absolutely been remarkable to see a guy keep going this far and be as successful as he is. And I have to give him kudos the most out of all the players because there's no one that has evolved their game and their physicality to keep playing. You know, Federer probably could have done a little bit of difference, could have changed a couple of things, maybe come forward a bit earlier and see if he could last a little longer. Instead, he was like, I'm done. I played my game, that's it. Nadal switched and switched and switched and switched. So very impressive. And so I think we've lost one, but they get to that point where you have to wish them the best so that they enjoy the rest of their life healthily.
Yeah. And one of the headlines says, Rafael Nadal did not retire, quote, as he would have liked. What do you think is going on? You think he wishes he could go out on top? I mean, is that kind of the concept there?
No, but I think he would have rather retire at the French Open. So,
but he could have then. I mean, he could have retired this year. And that's why you're saying it's about time, meaning he should have just said, you know what, guys, you're right, I'm out.
He could have done at the end of this last French Open. He could have. But he wanted to come back and play for Spain, and he wanted to finish on his note, you know. And if there's anything, like I said, 2009, 2012, he was like 18. They were both all saying physically, I don't know how this guy can keep going, you know. The weight changes, the muscle deficient. I mean, there were so many things, and he just kept coming. And then taking the ball off the baseline and coming to the net and changing his serve up made him survive a little longer. And that was a risk in the first place, right? I mean, Moya just said, if we're going to keep going, this is what we've got to do. And they took 20 to 30% off his court time, you know? So
yeah, and Moya would know because Moya was of the generation where the clay court players didn't last very long because they were just beat up at the end of 5 to 7 years. Yep. To be able to say, if you really want to play, Roger Federer's got a very efficient game, less so than I think most people think. Like it wasn't the serve volley efficiency, but a very efficient game. He wins quickly, can shorten the point. You've got to figure out how to do that. And like you said, with the technique changes and the adjustments and his ability to volley. Remember that clay courter back in the day that could volley? No, neither do I. And this guy coming in with perfect technique and being able to finish points at the net was a complete change from that culture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had to listen to Mr. McEnroe, right? I mean, John said that Bradford's got probably the best volley in the whole game.
Yeah.
And but he was too far back in the court to be able to use it.
But he's a clay court guy. Right.
So Clay court. I don't know. I mean, I've seen Djokovic up closer to the baseline and win the French Open. If you look at Wawrinka, same thing. He was way up on the baseline and he could do well at the French. So I wouldn't necessarily label all clay court players 9, 10 feet back, but that was one of his signatures. Rafa would just weigh you down. And I always used to say to junior development, it's not about necessarily beating a guy off the court. It's actually beating him in the challenge, in the fight, that makes it harder. So out rallying somebody actually is harder on a person than being passed and winner all day long. Um, so the hardest thing is to lose to someone when it's your own racket and you're trying to just battle with them. And that guy just a little bit stronger, just a little bit cleaner, and just doesn't miss. You know, that's the hardest thing to take. Like you're like, oh my God, it was right there. Oh my God, I had this. Oh my, there's all these things. And Rafa, that was his signature. He would just weigh you down, and we're gonna miss him. He's just got a poise about him. Both kings that are gone right now had a poise about them. They were great examples for the generations coming. They were just amazing. So we're going to miss them, but at the same time, we've got to the point where we go wish them both well and let the new wave come in.
Yeah, let the younger guys come. One more thing on Rafa specifically, a right-handed person that was turned into a left-handed tennis player intentionally. Are we going to see more of that? Look at the success of what's the guy's name? The British guy that just made the semis of the U.S. Open. I don't know why I can't think of his name. But you're talking about guys that are, you got coaches that are saying to the 4 and 5-year-old kids, yeah, you're right-handed, that's fine, but you're going to be a lefty because there is some inherent advantage. Do we think we're going to see more of that? Is that something that's a thing, or is it just going to be as rare as it always was?
Well, from the information I knew, they didn't know he was lefty till later. They didn't know that. So he was like in the high up in the world in 12s and 14s when they realized he was right-hand dominant, and just said, well, he is where he is now. We can't change it now. So
Right, but parent knows he's going to pick up a crayon with his right hand.
no, that can
He plays golf right-handed. Somebody had to know.
Uh, well, interesting you say that, right? He didn't really grow up playing golf. And if you saw him play soccer, he played both feet. Played both feet very well. Have you ever
It's
seen
less
it?
obvious there, yeah.
You've seen any video footage of him, his both feet were just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Any footage of you watched him in soccer, he just dominated a field and just had people flabbergasted any side, left and right. So I don't know. It, again, we all know too that lefties feel the ball more, and I'm ambidextrous, so I can understand both sides of what he did, and he must have just he could feel the ball more lefty, so they left it happen. But later on, started identifying things. So like he could throw a ball very like a lot stronger on the right than the left, which maybe he would have been a bigger server than what he was. But the guy legitimately lefty hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. And Jack Draper is the name that I was trying to think of, who's
I was going to tell you, Draper is who you're talking about.
Yeah, is a right-handed play or a right-handed person, and they made him left-handed. And I plan on doing that with my son. We've got a 2-year-old, and we take him out to the courts, and people look at us and they're like, "Oh yeah, you should put that racket in his left hand." All the coaches say that. So is it just a thing people say and it's harder to do, or maybe Rafa is one of the last really famous, huge success stories of it?
As a talent development coach and doing this for many, many years with juniors, I always say let them play two-handed both sides if you want to, because it creates the turn and the rotation. And then as they get going, you'll start to identify which hand's more dominant or which one the child finds more prominent that they enjoy. Right. Because trying to force something that's not there is, I think that if you're ambidextrous like myself, I could have done both. I could have, whichever way it happened, But on the other hand, some people are very dominant one side, and you'll be probably developing faster if you get that right than trying to go the other side and saying, "Wow, but everyone's a lefty." I'm like, no,
Well,
no.
either way, we may never know. Like, would he have been as
Yeah,
successful if he was a righty?
the
I don't think
statistics
so.
show, well, the statistics show around the world too, right? What's the majority of tennis players right-handed?
Yeah.
Like majority of tennis players. So when we saw a lefty and a good lefty, it was like, woohoo,
Right.
Yeah,
Right. I always
yeah.
call it an inherent 10% advantage. And when you're
Yeah,
going against Grand Slams, you know what? That's a good
the
thing to have.
the feel of the left side has always been more than the right side. But
Yeah.
again, we could look at Federer, one of the best fields ever, and he was the right hand. So,
Yeah. Agreed.
would we swap Federer to lefty because we're supposed to? I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not. Good point. Well, either way, we definitely wish him all the best. We assume he's going to be involved in tennis in some ancillary way in promoting and helping. His academy is going to do great things. But yeah, hopefully this is something that he can finally, I don't say give it up, but he can finally just be done with it and say, I can't push forward anymore. We don't want him to torture himself any further than he already has.
Yeah, I'll finish with the three kings that I call them is Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal. I think they'll be always in tennis for the rest of their life. And that is a very fortunate thing we have because they're going to lead the next future, the next generation, be involved because of how much they've learned over the last 20, 30 years. I think they're going to be hands down. Like, I mean, because, Pete Sampras just disappeared. A lot of players just disappear. I don't think we're going to see that with these three players. So good luck, Rafa.
Good ambassadors for the sport. But we gave Rafa an extra couple of minutes because he's worth it on our 10 minutes of tennis. Justin Yo, this has been 10 minutes of tennis. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man.